Hello, I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man, and I'm with Nick McAleenan. Nick is a partner at JMW's Manchester office and is a specialist in data and privacy law. Hello, Nick.
Good morning, Dominic.
So news reports in France suggest that IKEA France has been fined a reported amount of 1.1 million euros, and two former IKEA France executives have received suspended jail sentences. The litigation concerns receiving personal data by fraudulent means. Now, I know that you're a data and privacy expert, Nick. Just putting aside IKEA for a moment, is it ever acceptable for any business, whoever they are, to spy on their employees?
Well, I think obviously this case provides a little bit of an insight into big business and the fact that they obviously have these fraud teams that are really well resourced. I mean, the IKEA team in this particular case that was behind some of the wrongdoing had an annual budget of 600,000 euros, I think it is. So they're well resourced. There's a lot of people working for them, and they can be quite intrusive in terms of some of their methods. I mean, I think obviously what happened in this case was found to be illegal, and I think the same outcome would probably be the case in the UK. I mean, essentially what they're doing is illegally accessing personal data, and that's something which the ICO and the courts have already had a look at in this country. And it's quite clear that, for example, Section 170 of the Data Protection Act would forbid what they were up to. It clearly intrudes into people's privacy. I suppose if you step back, there's a kind of a more general question of, can employers monitor their staff? And I think that that's a more nuanced question. It is possible to monitor staff in certain situations. Have they been notified about what's going on? Is the monitoring proportionate to the risk that's trying to be monitored for? I mean, there's a famous case involving a Spanish supermarket in which they actually filmed people working at the kiosks because they thought that money was being taken from the tills. And the courts looked at that and said that that was legitimate in all of the circumstances. So I think that monitoring is permissible, but subject to some pretty careful legal examination. Obviously, what's happened in this case is probably more akin to corporate espionage, hiring private investigators to dig for information in circumstances where you shouldn't. Is probably more akin really to phone hacking and some of the activities that we saw in that set of court cases. Obviously, a lot of this is very historic. It's from the early 2000s, I think, running up to about 2011.
And I mean, you mentioned about the monitoring. I think anybody who's going for a new job may well just expect their social media just to be glanced at. Where's the line, Nick, between just sort of having a look out of curiosity at social media and the level of sort of monitoring that we're talking about in this case?
I mean, there's no ban on employers, on organisations from looking at people's social media accounts before they decide to take them on as employees. But there are some legal checks that they need to go through. Are they, in collecting that person's personal data, because that's basically what they're doing, are they complying with data law? There's some really useful guidance from the ICO on what employers should think about if they're going to be checking people's social media before inviting them in for interview. Similarly, employers would need to be quite careful about not discriminating against people. So have they run the risk essentially of calling somebody in for interview and then not employing them, and that person turning around and saying, well, actually what's happened here is you've discriminated against me because you looked at my social media profile and you found out something about me that's then led you not to employ me. So there's a few kind of legal minefields to navigate. I mean, I think I'd probably say to an employer, be transparent about what you're doing. Perhaps don't be looking at that social media profile before you've interviewed. Have the interview and explain at the interview or after the interview that you are going to be looking at somebody's social media profile, so that you're doing things transparently. I think that would probably be a safer way to proceed.
Excellent, Nick. Thank you very much for your insight. And Nick is always available to give advice in relation to any privacy and any data matters. If you'd like to contact him, you can do so via me, Inside Man jmw.co.uk or call me on 0161 82 81 999. I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man.